Hi, I'm Adrian from Inspiratrix Yoga. Today we're going to do something a little bit different. And by different, I mean we're going to use yoga poses, but in a way to release in the body. I use yoga for a lot of strength building stuff, but today we're going to be focusing on mobility. We're going to be looking at getting movement into the joints and staying in some poses, in some quite stretchy poses in a way that allows the body to just release naturally, so we don't have to force ourselves into a stretch. I hope you enjoy the class. So we'll start off by sitting cross-legged and breathing into the side ribs. Feeling that breath pouring into the body effortlessly and being pushed out the body effortlessly. Starting to come into the body. Feel on the in-breath for relaxing the belly, making space for the breath to come in. And on the exhale, for gently pulling the belly in to help the diaphragm take the breath out. And the intention that I've got for today is to basically go through the body, chasing bits that are tight, chasing bits that are tense, chasing bits that just need a little bit of a stretch or a little bit of love and attention. And I'm going to go through a 5-breath stretch sequence at one point where we go starting down dog and we go through 8 different poses afterwards. And we spend about 5 breaths in each one, maybe even 8, maybe even 10 in each one. And feel for getting a stretch in there and a release. And what we're going to do while we're in those poses is feel free to move around when you're in them. I see people when they're doing yoga, they almost want to be like sphinxes or statues. And they're not moving at all. They get into a pose and they stay there. I like to kind of move and feel like, is there a slightly better position here or a slightly better angle I can get on this to get a better stretch? So it'll be absolutely fine to move, to come in and out of the pose, to pulse in and out of pose, whatever you want to do. And while we're starting off with this, we're going to start off with this sequence with the hands and the wrists. And we're going to start off with wrist stretches, taking the left hand in front. Take hold of the little finger and gently pull it back. Huge breath into the little finger, and on an exhale, pull it back a little bit further. Feeling for where the tightness is in every finger. Inhale, take hold of the ring finger and gently pull it back. Exhale, pull it back just a little bit more, sending the heel of the hand forward and spreading the hand wide. Inhale, take hold of the middle finger. Gently pull it back. Exhale, pull it back just a little bit more, unfurling the hand like a flower. Inhale, take hold of the index finger. Gently pull it back. Exhale, pull it back just a little bit more. Feeling for spread in the bones and the tendons and the muscles in the hand. Inhale, take hold of the thumb. Gently pull it back. Exhale, pull it back a little bit more. It's less about the actual physical stretching and more about the visualization of making the hand as big as you can. Swap hands over. Right hand out in front. Take hold of the little finger. Gently pull it back. Exhale, pull it back just a little bit more. Feeling that stretch, feeling where the tightness is. Inhale into the ring finger. Gently pull it back. Exhale, pull it back a little bit more. The heel of the hand comes forward. Inhale into the middle finger, gently pulling it back. Feel where that gentle pull back unveils where stresses and tensions aren't gripping. And on the exhale, feel for releasing that bit where the tightness is. Spreading the hand. Inhale, take hold of the index finger. Gently pull it back. And on an exhale, pull it back a little bit more. Inhale, taking hold of the thumb. Pull it back gently. And on an exhale, pull it back just a little bit more, spreading the hand, spreading the little finger as far away from the thumb as you can. Stage 2 of this, bring the hands to the side and take a huge breath in. Make sure you don't have anything you're going to knock over the sides. Push the hands out and then bring the fingers in one at a time, starting with the little finger, ring finger, middle finger, index finger, thumb on top. Exhale, knuckles down towards the floor. Big inhale in, open hands, palms facing forwards. Thumb in the middle, fingers wrap on top. Exhale, knuckles down towards the floor, getting a stretch in the side of the wrist. Let's do that one more time. Hands by the side, big breath in. Push the hands out. Bring the fingers in one at a time, starting with the little finger, ring finger, middle finger, index finger, thumb on top. Exhale, knuckles down towards the floor. Stretch on the top of the wrist, top of the forearm. Big breath in, hands open in front. Thumb goes in the middle, fingers wrap on top. Exhale, knuckles down towards the floor. Feeling a stretch on the side of the wrists. Final bit for this is to bring the fingers to the floor. Can you bring them in front of you like this or to the sides, whichever way feels like it gives you a better stretch. And we're not aiming to get the hands to the mat, just getting to the point where there's a nice opening in the palm of the hand and in the fingers. You might find that you have different flexibility in each hand, like I do. I can bring my left hand all the way to the floor, my right hand, nah, nowhere near, especially not this morning. But work at a place that just feels comfortable. Taking a big breath in, sending it all the way down into the forearms. And a long breath out, carrying out any tightness that you come across. And maybe after a breath, you can relax a little bit deeper. And then gently peel the hands off the floor and give them a little bit of a shake. And then what I like to do is I like to work the wrists by clasping the hands together and just rolling the wrists, rolling them one way and then rolling them the other. I'm not sure if I'm rolling them the other way. I'm rolling. That's one way, that's the other. Feeling for that, getting a rotation in the wrists. And then while we're seated here, we can actually get some rolling into the shoulders. So we can take the shoulders up and back and around. And then carry on with that roll. Another one, up and back and around. Up and back and around. And then we roll them the other way so they come up and forward and around. Up and forward and around. Up and forward and around. I can actually feel them today a lot. And we roll them one at a time, forwards and forwards, like some kind of disco move. And then roll them the other way. And it's really good to get the shoulder blades moving. A lot of people's shoulder blades are frozen onto their back. Not frozen shoulder, but just the shoulder blade doesn't move. And if your shoulder blade doesn't move, the joint is doing so much more work. And this is the cause of a lot of people's shoulder pain, from just the joint does the work rather than the shoulder blade. Let's come into a side bend. If you don't want to sit cross-legged anymore, you can come into a straddle, which is kind of nice. You can come with one leg straight, one leg to the groin. If you're going to do this one, start with the left leg out. Inhale and sit up tall. Inhale into the side ribs specifically. Hold the breath. Bring the left hand to the floor. Come into a side bend as far as you can with a held breath. Bring the other arm over. And then staying where you are, exhale out and then take a big breath in into the right hand side of the ribs. Feel for relaxing the jaw, relaxing the face. Relaxing the tongue. Bring the arm that's up in the air and pinwheel it down to hovering about a foot or so off the ground. Play with the position of the arm to get the optimal neck stretch for you. And if you're feeling like you're not really getting much of a release in the neck, let the arm come down, let the hand touch something, let the arm completely relax, and then lift it up another 6 or 8 inches or so. If you're dribbling out the side of your mouth, that's okay. It's a sign that you're relaxed. Inhale and use the right arm to lift you up, and then pick the hand up off the floor, put it underneath the head, and use that to bring the head up. Bring the left leg that's out to the side, out in front, and bring the right knee up. And we'll do a twist to get the spine twisting. So inhale and sit up tall. Exhale at the shoulders and shoulder blades come down the back. Now left hand goes onto the right knee, the other hand goes behind, and you're turning to the right hand side of the room. Lead with the chest and not with the neck. So keep the neck and chin in line with the chest. I like to imagine I've got a pointer coming out right in the middle of my chest, like a speedometer pointer. And I'm trying to turn that rather than turn my nose. Take a massive breath in, sending it into the belly. And on an exhale, seeing if there's a little bit further to the twist. Twisting at the belly and up at the chest, not at the neck. Inhale and come out of that. Exhale, straighten the legs out, give them a little bit of a shake before we move on to the other side. So for the other side, is that if you're sitting cross-legged, then you can carry on sitting cross-legged. If you want the one leg straight, one heel to groin, the right leg is straight, left heel to the groin. Inhale and sit up tall. Hold the breath, right hand onto the floor, coming into a side bend as far as you can by holding that breath in. Once you're as far as you can with the held breath, exhale, but stay where you are. Then take a huge breath in into the left-hand side of the ribs. And a long breath out. Shoulders going down the back. Jaw relaxing, eyes relaxing. Take the arm that's up in the air and pinwheel it over, so it's hovering about a foot off the ground. If it helps you get a better stretch in the neck by letting the hand come all the way down to touch something and relax, and then lifting it up 8 or so inches, then do that. Use the left arm to straighten up the torso. Pick the hand up off the floor, put it underneath the head, and then lift the head up. Take the right leg, move it to the middle. Left knee comes up to the chest. Huge breath in, making the spine long. Exhale, turn to the left-hand side of the room. Left arm goes behind. Again, use it, turning with the chest, not with the head or the neck. Keeping the nose in line with the chest. Inhale and come out of that. Exhale, straighten out the legs and give all the legs and the shoulders and the arms a bit of a shake. And we'll move down onto the mat to do some hamstring stretches and then abs and then bridge. Make sure you're taking time to make yourself really comfortable here. Don't be like me, just lying on the floor off my mat, because I can't be bothered to put another mat down. So make sure you're not being like me on this one. You can even put a blanket under the back if you feel like your spine is digging into the mat and you're feeling the floor through it, or if you're just feeling the cold through the floor. Now, first off, we're just going to do some leg stretches, some hamstring stretches. So we're going to lie on the floor, knees bent, feet on the floor, or you can have the legs straight here as well if that feels okay in your low back. It's early in the morning, so I'm gonna just take care of my low back. And I suggest you do too. Inhale and bring the left knee to the chest. Exhale, straighten the leg out towards the ceiling. And then take hold of the thigh with both hands. Feel for pressing the foot into the sky like you're pushing the ceiling up. Here, by using our hands to pull the leg up and keep the leg up, we're calling this an active stretch because we're actually actively stretching with the hand. And press through the heel of the foot and the ball of the foot. And I like to also turn the leg from side to side, feeling which way I'm getting where I'm feeling the stretch the most, and maybe staying there for a breath or two. And then we're going to move from this active stretch where we're holding the leg up into a passive stretch where the leg actually has to just hold itself up. And so it might move back. It might not be as high up because you're not holding it up. Your end range might not be the same, but find a place where the leg just wants to stay up in the air and press through the heel and press through the ball of the foot. Also pressing through the heel of the leg that's on the ground or the foot, depending on whether you've got the leg straight or the leg bent. Again, turn the leg from around, so the toes are pointing out, toes are pointing in. Getting it through a full range of motion. And then bring the left leg down to the floor. And we'll do that one on the other side. Inhale, right knee comes to the chest. Take hold of the thigh. Exhale, foot up towards the ceiling. And again, playing with pressing through the balls of the feet, heels, and rotating the leg from side to side. And when you find a spot that just feels like, yeah, that's a spot that needs some attention today, stay there for a breath or two. And then let go of the leg. Let it find a place that it's happy to stay up there for a few breaths. And again, we'll just play with pressing through the balls of the feet and the heels, turning the leg from one side to the other, finding a place that maybe just, yeah, that's the one for me. Turning the toes in. Just give it a breath or two. And then let the feet come down. Wiggle the hips just to, because that's quite a lot of work for the hip muscles and even the abs, before we move into doing some more ab stuff. Today, there'll be no head, neck, shoulders movement off the ground. It's just going to be in the legs. Because as much as I think that it's really strengthening sometimes to use the head and shoulders in abs, when our focus is more on releasing tension, I think adding these head and neck parts to it is like a lot of tension in the upper body for people, especially the jaw. It's very hard to not clench the jaw when you're lifting your head and shoulders in abs. So today, head and shoulders stay down, makes them infinitely easier. And we're going to start off with very simple ones, feet on the floor. Take a huge breath into the hips and into the side ribs. And exhale, bring the left knee up, pulling the belly down. Inhale into side ribs, bring the foot down slowly. Exhale, bring the right knee up. Pulling the belly down, pulling the front ribs down as well. Inhale, foot comes to the floor. Inhaling into the side ribs. Exhale, left knee comes up. Ground through the right foot as well. So that foot is actively pressing into the mat. Pulling the front ribs down. Inhale, foot comes to the floor. Breathing into the side ribs. Exhale, right knee comes up, grounding through the left foot, pulling the front low ribs down. Inhale, foot to the floor. Let's do one more round on each side. We'll move on to leg dips. For leg dips, feet come up, knees are over the hips, feet dangling down below. Find a position for the thighs that work. I find sometimes I'm doing these with my thighs out to the side, and I feel like, oh, my hip flexors are really gripping. Sometimes it's better for me to bring the knees together. So experiment with this position for the knees, because everybody's hips is different, and trying to force your hips into a shape that is uncomfortable, especially in the hip flexors, just doesn't work for people. So spend a moment figuring out where feels good for you. As long as your knees are over the hips and they're not too wide apart, like in a frog position, you'll be fine. So maybe you want the knees further together or slightly apart. Find out one that works for you. Take a huge breath into the side ribs. Exhale, bring the left heel down towards the mat. Pulling the front ribs down as you do that. Inhale into side ribs. Foot comes up. Exhale, right heel comes down towards the mat. Inhale, side into side ribs, foot comes up. Exhale, left heel down towards the mat, pulling the front ribs down. Inhale, foot comes up. Breathing into side ribs. Exhale, right heel comes down, pulling the front ribs down. Inhale into side ribs, foot comes up. Let's do one of those on each side. If you can bring your heel to the floor with this, feel how the belly contracts slightly when the heel strikes into the floor. It's very interesting. Same reason why running is good for us, because we tighten the core every time the heel hits the floor in order to absorb the shock. And then bring the feet to the floor, hands on the belly, and take some resting breaths into the belly. And then roll. Now let's do bridge before we roll over. Bring the feet underneath the hips, feet about hip distance apart, feet parallel. Relax the upper body. Take a huge breath in and press through the feet, and we'll stay up here for a few breaths. Feel for pressing through the feet. And on an inhale, bring the chest up towards the chin. And on the exhale, sending the knees away from the hips. And on an inhale, start to bring the upper back down, and then exhale halfway, and then bring the whole back down, and exhale all the way out. Then roll over onto one side, and come to standing. We're going to do a sequence where we start in down dog, and then we're going to go through 8 poses. And then we'll repeat them on the other side. The idea being that we'll open the legs, the hips, the shoulders, the core more. So just step into a downward facing dog. And we'll stay in downward facing dog for 5 breaths. Feel for pressing the floor away. And again, feel for opening the backs of the legs by patting the heels down towards the mat. And now from here, we'll step into a lunge with the left leg comes forward, right knee comes down. We'll just come into a regular lunge for 5 breaths. Feel for sending the hips towards the front of the mat. See if you need to adjust where the front foot is. That's okay. And keep the upper body quite high. It's okay if the hands stay on the thigh. It's early in the morning anyway. I would say keep the hands on the thigh. If you want to be more active, the arms can come up, but don't let the body come too far forward. From here, we're going to go into a side stretch. So take the right hand and reach the right hand for the right leg. So you're opening out the body as you're turning towards the right hand side. Left hand can still be on the left thigh. If you're really flexible, the hand might come down, right hand might come down onto the right foot. But otherwise, just feel for just taking it in that general direction. So now you're working on turning the chest towards the side of the mat. And again, feel for moving into this pose over the number of breaths that we have for it. As your muscles release, you get deeper into it. Now come back to the middle and we'll move into a twisting lunge. For this one, square the hips up, square the knees up. So you might need to adjust the position of the front leg a little bit. Then stretch the right arm up into the air. And then exhale, bring the right elbow over left thigh. Bring the hand on top, coming into a twisting lunge. If this twisting lunge doesn't work for you, you can just have the arms down on the thigh, helping you come into a twist in that way. Slowing the breath down. Spending 5 breaths in here. Come out of that, and we're going to move into Nomads Pose. Take the left leg and stretch it out in front. Hands can come down onto the floor or onto blocks. I don't have any blocks with me handy, so I'm just going to bring the hand to the floor. And I'm working on sending the ball of foot forward, so trying to keep this leg as straight as possible. Depending on how flexible you are, this is going to be easy or not easy. Spending 5 breaths here. Then come out of that one. Bring the foot back towards the hips so it's on the floor roughly square. So roughly things are square. Then the hands come to the floor on the inside of the leg. And we stretch the back leg out. Lift it. You can now have the heel up, the knee up off the floor for Maine Coon cat stretch. Or since it's early in the morning, you can keep the knee down. Whichever one feels like it's good in your body right now. You might, depending on your flexibility, be able to bring the forearms down onto the floor, come in further. It all depends how open you're feeling. And you'll feel different levels of openness depending on the time of day. We'll move into lounge lunge, which is in this position, this Maine Coon cat stretch position, but with a twist. So we'll take the left hand and wrap it around the left shin and knee. And the other hand moves forward and to the side a little bit more. And we're now just dropping the right hand side of the body down towards the mat. Turning the chest towards the left knee. Staying here for 5 breaths. Slowly releasing so that your hips are opening, the side of the body are opening. And because we're allowing some time in this position, it's not a race to get into that stretch. You can let your body just organically open as it needs to. Then slowly make your way out of that into pigeon. We'll do a high pigeon first, and I'll show that. But if you know that you're tweaky in the knee and pigeon just doesn't work for you, I'll show an alternative. So regular high pigeon people, left knee comes forward, right knee's back, and we stay in this high position. You can have your hands on blocks, even if that is nice for you. If you're tweaky in the knee, you can lie on your back and cross the left ankle over the right thigh in this position. If you want to get slightly deeper into this pigeon, you can tuck the toes of the right foot under, lift the right knee up, send the leg back, and then bring the knee to the floor, and then the back of the foot to the floor. Finally, reclining pigeon. So we can bring the forearms to the floor, maybe making a little tower for your head with your hands, or just coming down all the way. If you're doing this on the back version, you can now optionally, because you have the left ankle over the right thigh, pick up the right leg and catch hold of it, catch hold of the thigh with the hands. Come out of this, come out into a downward facing dog. Taking 5 breaths in here and using the downward facing dog to open out any bits that feel like they need some more attention. Backs of the legs, the calves, the hamstrings are an obvious one. Hips are another one. Sending the hips up towards the ceiling. This is also a great way to let the shoulders open out by actively pushing through the hands but straightening the body. So your upper torso and your arms come into as straight a line as possible. Now we've got to do all those on the other side. Lunge, inhale, right leg comes forward. Come into a regular lunge. Sending the hips towards the front of the mat. Now let's get a bit of a twist going in here. Keep the right hand onto the right knee. Turn the body towards the left and then send the left hand towards the left foot. Again, depending on your flexibility, you might be able to reach the foot or not. You don't feel like you have to stay in one spot like a sphinx. As your body releases tension, feel free to get deeper into the pose, or feel free to actually back out of it slightly if you feel like, oh no, I went too deep there and I don't feel, my body doesn't feel safe in that position. One of the main keys to getting more flexible is to make your body feel comfortable in those motions where it is not flexible in. Flexibility, lack of flexibility is the body's way of trying to keep you safe from getting into positions where it doesn't feel like you're strong enough. Twisting lunge, come back to the middle. Inhale, straighten the left arm up into the air. And on the exhale, bring the left elbow over the right thigh. Make a fist, hand on top. Optionally, you can just use the arms to come into this twist. Nomads Pose. If you have blocks and you need them, this is a great place for that. You straighten out the right leg so you're on the heel and hands come onto blocks or onto the floor. And here we're pressing through the ball of the foot with the intention of getting the leg to straighten out. It might not straighten out because of hamstring flexibility issues, but that's the goal or the direction that you're headed in. I don't think mine will ever become straight here, but it's nice to work it. come out of that Maine Coon cat stretch. So bring the foot to the floor. Bring the hands to the floor on the inside of the foot. And optionally, you can lift the back knee up or keep it down. If you're having a flexible day, the elbows might come to the floor. If not, doesn't matter. Lounge lunge. Take the right arm, wrap it around the right knee, bring the hand onto the shin. The left hand can go a little bit further out, a little bit further forward. And you're turning the chest towards the right knee and letting the side of the body hang down. Come out of that, and this is where you get to come into a high pigeon. If you know that with the right knee forward, high pigeon with the right knee forward. If you know the pigeon isn't your friend, you can do the on the back version, crossing the right ankle over the left thigh here. It can be nice here to have your hands on blocks to give the body a little bit more elevation. And if you want to get deeper into this, you can tuck the toes of the back leg under, lift the knee up, and then send the heel of the leg back, making the leg longer. Then bring the knee down and the foot back to the floor. Recline pigeon. And bring the forearms down to the floor, head down to the floor. If you're doing the on the back version here, you can lift the left leg up off the floor, catch hold of the thigh with the hands, and bring the knee closer and the foot closer to the chest. And then come out of that. Come into a tabletop position. And just give the hips a wiggle and shoulders a wiggle, making circles with the hips and the shoulders, going one way and then going the other. Let's move into a wind down now. Now, if you've just gotten up, you might not feel like you need a Shavasana, but I still recommend spending 2 minutes just being still and being silent and letting whatever came from the practice integrate with the rest of you. So first off, before we move into Shavasana, we'll just come into a lying down. And my favorite way of releasing is to just take the knees from side to side. Some people like to bring the knees to the chest and do the same thing. Other people like ambitious things like Baddha Konasana on the back, where the soles of the feet come together and the feet come towards the chest. Or even Happy Baby, where they grab hold of the feet with the hands and bring the knees towards the armpits. Pick whichever one works for you today. And then we'll just move into a couple of minutes of Shavasana. Again, don't be like me. Spend 30 seconds to make yourself comfortable. If that means putting a blanket over you, having a blanket underneath you. Some people like to do Shavasana with their feet on a gym ball, or their feet up the wall, or legs on a chair, all sorts of ways. But we'll use stillness and silence as a way to integrate what we got out of the practice. Shavasana. And take a big breath in, followed by a long breath out. Then take a regular breath in, followed by a regular breath out. And then start to move the fingertips and the toes, the arms and the legs. Getting ready for the day ahead, or if you're doing this in the afternoon, whatever you've got going in the evening, this is a great way to revitalize yourself in the afternoon after being in the office or doing a lot of any kind of strenuous work where you feel like you're starting to tighten up. And then roll over onto one side. And slowly come up to a seated position. Ready for whatever challenge awaits you ahead. Well, thank you very much for joining me today. I hope you found this slightly different yoga class interesting and beneficial to your body. We did a lot of mobility work, we stayed in poses, and we worked on bringing motion into our joints. So it's not a class with very much strength building, but it's about increasing that range of mobility. And it's also great if you find that tightness and chronic pain sometimes holds you back. So I hope you found it very enjoyable. Thank you very much for joining me. See you again soon.